In the past several episodes of History Traveler, we've been walking the battlefields of Verdun. And in one of those episodes specifically, we were right here at Fort Vaux, which was the scene of some of the most horrific sustained combat throughout the Battle of Verdun, especially during the first week of June, when German infantry was able to penetrate the defenses of the fort and get inside and force the French to capitulate. Now, I know that Eric Dorr is typically the one who brings things along on these types of trips, but I actually brought something myself on this trip connected to a soldier, German soldier, who was here at Fort Vaux, and the details of it are a little bit of a mystery. Anytime that I'm out traveling, one of the things that I like to do when I can is to visit some of the local cemeteries and see what there is there and what I can learn. Anybody who is familiar with this channel already knows that. And I've had the chance to visit several German military cemeteries, but none quite like this one here. This is Hautecourt German Military Cemetery, and as you can hear, this thing is wedged right between a highway and a railroad track. All right, we just walked in through the cemetery gates here, and as I mentioned, this cemetery is just different to me. The fact that it's wedged right between the railroad track and the road, and I don't know, it's just odd. Maybe that's just me. And I don't know, it looks just very stripped down and simple. And yeah, if we look here, yeah, so in this cemetery, there are 7,885 German burials from the First World War. And right now you're looking at the length of the cemetery from one end to the other, and I can tell you there are not 7,885 crosses in this cemetery. All right, we're going to take a look around and just kind of see what we see, and then I'll show what I brought along. All right, let's just take a little walk around the cemetery and look at a few of these grave markers. All right, so yeah, if we look at this one here, looks like we got a couple of graves under this marker. Looks like to a Joseph Altman, who died May 5th of 1916, so that puts him right here in Verdun, of course. And Johann Bars, who was a musketeer. It looks like he died on May the 4th of 1916. And then let's take a little look around here on the other side. Yeah, so you got a couple graves on this side as well. So under this grave marker, you've actually got 4 German soldiers. And I mentioned the number of Germans who are buried in this cemetery and how there aren't enough crosses. But let's see, we'll take a look at this one here. Even if you add up all these crosses, multiply it by 4, it still doesn't add up. And then here we have a Paul Kaiser, and then of course there on the right, like so many graves here, an unknown soldier. As we're walking the cemetery here, you just see all of these crosses, but there are a few grave markers that are a little bit different, like that of Arthur Kaufman, who was a cannoneer, and looks like he died on the 11th of May, 1916. And obviously his marker is different because he was Jewish. That makes me wonder, in World War II, when the Germans moved through here and occupied France, I wonder if these markers were here at that time, or if these are post-World War II markers, because obviously among the Nazi Party there was no love for the Jewish people, and a lot of their monuments and markers were torn down, and especially in like Jewish cemeteries. So anyway, yeah, interesting. When you're walking through these military cemeteries, of course you can look at the headstones and the markers and see the names and some of the dates. So here's like a Johann Schmidt who died 23rd of July in 1916. Here's a Ludwig Hartmann. The one thing you really don't get though is the faces of these people that help to connect you a little bit with who they were. I do have an exception to that today. Recently, I acquired this. This is a funeral card, sometimes they're called a death card, for a soldier named Michael Huber, who died right here at Verdun. Buried here among the 7,800 plus German soldiers of the First World War is this one, Michael Huber. Now, we can get a little bit of information about Michael Huber from the information on this funeral card. It says that he was a soldier with the 13th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Company. He died on June 24th, 1916 at 4 a.m. from a direct shell hit at the fort near Fleury in Verdun. And then it says a heroic death for the fatherland at age 25. And then there's a poem or a little saying down here at the bottom. And it says, I'm hoping I get the translation right here. It says, "Your grave in distant enemy country is a heavy burden to us. But take this word as a pledge, your grave shall not be deserted. Every evening when the bells are humming, our spirit lovingly moves there and prayingly strews devotional flowers on the heroes' graves with a pious heart." But yeah, here's the funeral card for Michael Huber. Now here's a little bit of the mystery that I've run into with Michael Huber. On the German War Graves Commission website, which is how I found out that he's buried here at the cemetery, it says that he was killed at Fort Vaux, but on the funeral card it says that he was killed at a fort near Fleury, which Fort Vaux is kind of near Fleury. There are other forts that are closer, so I don't know. It's a little bit of a mystery, but he's buried here. And you might be wondering why I haven't visited his grave marker. Well, there's a reason for that. When you look up Michael Huber on the War Graves Commission website, it tells you that he is buried here in what is called a comrade's grave. A more common name for it would be a mass grave. So if you look all along this line right here at the back of the cemetery, well, there are hundreds and hundreds of German soldiers who are buried there together in this mass grave, and Michael Huber is most likely one of them. Earlier I was talking about how I was a little bit perplexed that this cemetery is kind of wedged between a road and a railroad track. Well, the railroad track is just on the other side of this hedge. I'm just hypothesizing here, I don't know this for sure, but it could be that this cemetery was placed here because maybe they were loading up bodies on a rail line and then bringing them to the rear area for burial. But anyway, here is one of the mass graves here at this cemetery. When I walked through the cemetery gates at the beginning of this video, I noticed that on either side, as you walk in, they have kind of this little garden area, I guess you could say. And at first, I thought that it was just to, be aesthetically pleasing to make the cemetery look nice. Turns out that both of these are actually more mass graves right here in the cemetery. And then again, if we just look behind us as you're walking in, well, this wall has the names of every single German soldier who is buried in this cemetery. Man, it is something else to stand here and look at all the names of these guys who lost their lives in the war. And right here on this panel, well, here is the name of Michael Huber. There are actually two Michael Hubers who died here at Verdun. This one says Michael Huber and then Michael Jaeger Huber. I'm guessing that this is the one that matches up with the funeral card that I have because the death date is close. This one is the 22nd of June. On the funeral card it says 24th of June, but that just could be some kind of error. But yeah, here's his name. Here's another one of these remembrance cards that I brought with me on this trip. And I looked and looked, but could not find anything on the German War Graves Commission website that matched up with this guy. And I was hoping to maybe just get lucky over here. This is for, it says Jungling, and I think Johann is the abbreviation there, Hasselbeck. It says that he was in the 24th Infantry Regiment, 5th Company, and died on May 27th, 1916 as a result of shell fire near Verdun at the age of 24. And then the little inscription down there at the bottom says, in the fierce battle in enemy territory, hit. And then the saying there at the bottom says, in fierce battle in enemy territory, hit you the mortal wound. The loved ones, yours in the homeland, the bitter news hit hard. You died a heroic death for the fatherland, my dear. Something you courageously with a brave hand acquired heaven's reward. And then it says, sweetheart of Jesus be my love, sweetheart of Mary be my salvation. I looked on the wall and he's not on there. So I don't know, this is one of the guys who died here in Verdun and was lost to the war and is maybe lost to history. Could be that he's still out there on the battlefield somewhere. It was a little bit from right here at Hautecourt Military Cemetery. I like coming to these places because I don't think that very many people do. It's just some place that you kind of just drive by and maybe make note of it if you're going from one place to another. But it definitely underlines the tragedy of the First World War and the great cost that it had for everyone involved.